Hey guys, welcome back. I am glad to have you here in the new and improved studio. I hope you're digging it. Santa was good to me and brought me a bunch of new studio gear, so I've upped my game and hopes of bringing you guys more content, including bringing back Hops and Props. That's right, stand by for the announcement on exactly when and how that's gonna roll out, but I do plan to start live streaming again in the near future, so I hope you guys are looking forward to that. Today, I'm gonna be reviewing the Z25 from Axisflying. This is a little Cinewhoop from the guys over at Axisflying, and I gotta tell you, I'm really impressed with its capabilities. Now, right up front, I wanna be clear in that Axisflying did provide this drone to me for the purposes of this review. No money changed hands. I am not being paid for this content. Axisflying has no say over the things that I am gonna be saying in this video, nor did they have any prior knowledge of what I'm gonna be saying. They're seeing this video for the first time right along with you guys. Now, with that out of the way, let's get right into this Z25 and my thoughts on it. Cinewhoops may be new to you, or you may be an old hand in this space. I know that there are a lot of beginners out there because I get these messages all the time from people that are looking to get into FPV, and they see something like this as an entry point because it's small, lightweight, has prop guards, so they think they're not going to hurt anything, and I always discourage them to do so. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, whenever you start putting prop guards on these drones, there are just more things to break. They are heavier because of the prop guards, and you tend to just break stuff. These aren't meant to crash a lot, and because of that, they're not the best drone for beginners, in my opinion. I think you would be a lot better served by starting out with a 5-inch and just going straight into it. So what are Cinewhoops good for? Cinewhoops are good for putting talent at ease, meaning that if you are going to be filming someone, say a dancer, motocross, actors, any person where you want to get your FPV drone in close to them in order to make them feel comfortable and to reduce the risk to them, prop guards are a great idea. And as such, a lot of these Cinewhoops are used. I mean, it's right there in the name, Cinewhoop, because they are a lot like the Tiny Whoop style drones that we're all familiar with, those little indoor flyers, except they're bigger and able to carry an HD camera. Now, I've had several of these over the years, and I have failed to make content around most of them for various reasons. One of the first of these style drones that I got was this guy right here from iFlight. This is the ProTech 25. Now, this has the same diameter props as you are gonna see over here on the Z25 from Axisflying. But I had some issues with this. Number one, the only HD camera that I had at the time that this thing could carry was the Insta360 Go 2. And if you've seen my videos on that, I was not that impressed with the stabilization, and I just overall never really loved the footage out of that camera. So that was like a ding against it in the first place. And then the second ding was one of the first times I crashed it, I managed to break the prop guard here. I ordered a bunch of new prop guards, but by the time the new prop guards even came in, I had burned up a motor, and I was kinda over this guy and all of my efforts for it. So I tossed it to the side. Next up, I had the Cinema from Newbie Drone. Now this guy has a slightly bigger props. I think that they're running 3.5-inch props. It will carry the DJI Action 2, which I've been a big fan of. And I gotta tell you, the thrust to weight ratio on this guy running the Action 2 was superb. I was able to fly this like a freestyle quad, but there were a couple of dings on it still. Number one, the flight controller that I built it with did not have onboard storage for black box recording. So I wasn't able to record black box, and if you want to do any kind of good stabilization with the Action 2, you have to use GyroFlow, and they don't support the gyro data from the Action 2. So my only option was in-camera stabilization from the Action 2, which I've always had tons of issues with, it just jumping around, and it didn't work for me. So I tried flying it a little bit like a freestyle drone. I believe I put out a video where I showed that you could power loop with it and do split S's and all this stuff, carrying an Action 2, which it will do, but if you fly it that fast and that hard, when you crash, you know what's gonna happen? Again, you are going to break your prop guards. And so I busted the prop guards, have never gotten around to getting a new main plate for this guy. That's the other downside. If you look at the design of this frame right here, is the plate that I broke, which are the prop guards, is also the main plate where all of your electronics are mounted. So when you break your prop guard on this, you have to do a complete tear down and rebuild. While I love this guy for its lightweight and huge thrust to weight ratio, it is not the most serviceable for me. So now that brings us to the Z25. What do I think about this guy? Now, the Z25 that I have from Axisflying came with a RunCam link, which is the equivalent of a Caddx Vista, and the RunCam WASP camera. I gotta say, I've been pretty impressed with the WASP camera. It's not by any means my favorite camera, but it is a decent low light camera. It is a decent, I think it's 120 frames per second or whatever the high frame rate for the DJI system is. I don't notice a ton of latency with it. I'm pretty happy flying it. And the other thing is you can pull the IR filter out of this camera and it'll be IR sensitive. I've messed around with this guy. I've got a polar lens where I'd remove the IR filter and I just screwed that into this. By the way, the polar camera has a slightly larger aperture. Screwed that into this and I was able to fly around my house at night just using the IR illumination from all of my security cameras. Kind of a neat trick. Not really something that you're gonna use a ton, okay? So this is the configuration that I ran the Z25 in, which is with the DJI Action 2 camera. I'm running a 650 milliamp hour 4S battery with the XT30 because that is the connector that it comes with. And I was getting, 3-ish minutes of flight time, 3 to 4. They state on their website that with the Action 2, you can get 4 minutes. I'm using it with the slightly heavy bracket adapter. Also, they recommend battery sizes up to 850 milliamp hours. So I'm not quite the heaviest of batteries that they recommend. You might be able to stretch a little bit more flight time. Let's talk about the frame construction on this guy. It's a little bit unique compared to other Cinewhoops that I have flown in that it doesn't have one main plate or main stack with the arms where all of the arms have all the motors mounted to them. This guy has a top plate which is split and has 2 of the arms, the front arms on the top plate, and then the back arms are on the bottom plate, which that allows it to have 2 motors mounted up and 2 motors mounted down. It keeps the center of gravity nice and centered right where the flight controller is, vertically a little bit better. I don't know if that's true or not because you got a heavy camera on top and a battery on top, but I think that's what they're going for here. I like it in its simplicity. You don't have all of your stuff mounted on one piece of carbon fiber for all of those vibrations to get passed through to the flight controller. It splits your stack up a little bit. And as such, the flight controller is mounted to the top plate and the RunCam WASP is mounted to the bottom plate. So it gives you a little bit more isolation for those vibrations. All of your prop guards are wrapped around the standoffs. Let me see if I can hold it to where you can get a good view of that. The color matching looks a little bit better on camera here than it does in person, but it is really good. 3D printed, injection molded, and then some 3D prints around the standoffs with the prop guards going in right there. All right, I think that's about as good of a view as it's gonna get. So it's a really simple frame design. Nice little pocket in the back for your receiver. I'm running an Express LRS. I believe that's one of the Happy Model Express LRS receivers. Mine did not come with a receiver. They do sell one that comes with an Express LRS receiver. The one they sent me just had the video system. Not complaining. It's a couple extra bucks that I threw on there, and it's pretty nicely done. It came with a connector that was running out the back. I just chopped that off and direct soldered it on. Now, the thrust to weight ratio with this guy, with the action camera on it, you're not gonna go out and do a ton of freestyling. It just doesn't have the power to pull out of your split S's or to do crazy punch out. It will do some of that, but not a ton of it. I've flown it around a lot around the house just for fun with no action camera, and when you take the camera off of it, it rips. It is a lot of fun to fly, and it is a good yard quad because it's got the speed, and it's not so small that it's gonna get thrown around in the wind a ton. But where it really comes into its own is when you put that Action 2 on it And the flight controller that's in it, that all-in-one, has 16 megabytes of onboard flash, which is plenty to get a handful of flights, black box data, for you to take into GyroFlow after the fact and stabilize the footage. So I recently went out flying with Phantom FPV, and I let him ride my brand new e-skateboard. The guys over at Base Camp Boards gave me an F11 to try out. I've been loving it. It's a single hub motor. It's not like a powerhouse or anything, but it's a nice, super lightweight, easy to keep in my car all the time electric skateboard that I've been riding around and having a lot of fun on. And I let Phantom FPV take it for a spin, and I chased him and got some footage. I'm gonna let you guys take a look at that, and we'll come back and talk about some more high points of this frame. After taking a look at some of this smooth flying that you saw with it, I want to say that one of the downsides for these Cinewhoop style drones has always been durability for me. So I want to show you some of the crashes that I've done, and I have yet to break any of the prop guards. There are dings on the props themselves inside of the prop guards. I've not bothered to change them out because I don't like having to deal with these little screws, and it's still flying just fine. So the prop guards will push into the propellers and damage the propellers, but I have yet to break a prop guard, which for me, that is huge. Now, I think that that is partially due to the size of this guy. Because it is so small, you're not carrying a ton of weight, so it's not a lot of energy going into those crashes. Even when I'm smashing it into a picnic table, it's surviving it with ease. So I think that it's going to continue to hold up for the type of flying that I do. It's got me really wanting to get something like a GoPro Bones, but I just know, like, I've already crashed it a bunch. That's the one upside of my DJI Action 2 is it's super durable, and if I had the GoPro Bones, I'm afraid it's just not gonna survive, and oh, it makes me nervous. So I wanna get one of those, but let me know in the comments. Should I upgrade to a GoPro Bones, or should I stick with the Action 2 for my Cinewhooping? Other things that I'm not particularly a fan of, one thing is the battery pad. It's just not particularly sticky. It's good for providing some dampening for vibrations, etc. on the battery. You don't want to have a battery that's really loose and shaking around because it'll cause oscillations and issues, but it's not good for stickiness. I go back, my go-to in that space is the Grip. Nothing touches it, but I've got a whole drawer full of that. If it was really a big deal, I would rip it off and put a piece of Grip on there. So I'm not gonna talk too much trash because of that. Other than that, I really don't have any major gripes with this thing. It even has a nice piece of foam here on the bottom, which is good for a little bit of dampening if you are to bottom out or hit the ground. I've hit the ground a couple of times bouncing off with this, and it provides a nice little bit of, you know, relief from that. Overall, guys, I'm really happy with this. So now that brings up the question, who is this drone for? If I were in the market for a Cinewhoop, when would I buy this? I don't think it makes sense to buy this particular Cinewhoop with the intention of running a full-size GoPro. If you want to go run a GoPro Hero 11 Black, this isn't the Cinewhoop for you. Even if you want to run a GoPro Hero 11 Black Mini, this is not the Cinewhoop for you. It's just not going to carry it. This is great for something like the Insta360 Go 2. It is great for the DJI Action 2. I believe it would also be great for the GoPro Hero 10 Bones. I believe that's what it's called. Whatever. You know the one I'm talking about, the strip down, a naked GoPro. This would be great for a naked GoPro. But it's not going to handle the super heavy GoPros that are out there, or anything else for that matter. If you're looking to film talent doing things, this is a good platform for it. I just want to say, if you guys find this video helpful, please give me a like, subscribe so that you don't miss any of my other content. I am always putting out new content around FPV drones, and I've even got a lot more electric skateboard content coming up. I'm hopefully going to be getting a new board in the near future and be taking you guys on some group rides, going out for some fun things around Raleigh and Charlotte. So let me know if you're interested in seeing more of that content as well. And with that out of the way, I can't really think of anything else to say.